Welcome back. If you enjoy mud cloth inspired art, please stay tuned. This is a large canvas that I had for a while. I let it sit around just because I wasn't sure what to do with it. I did have a mud cloth attached to the front before I painted on it. And then one day I just freehanded this painting just to see, what I could do. So today I am actually going to cover this painting and recreate a mud cloth look. I'm going to paint over this and then we're going to spackle over it and uncover the paint underneath in a mud cloth pattern. So stay tuned if you'd like to see how that comes out. This is actually one of the mud cloths or inspired art that I created with the material that I had gotten from the thrift store. Did a little speckling at the bottom and then I weaved some grass in there just to give it more texture. But like I said, today we're going to do the same style but with different material. This is my first time doing anything or creating anything with joint compound. I've seen other YouTubers use it quite a bit for statues and art and things like that. So we're going to try and use this for the top layer. I'll go ahead and link this specific joint compound down below. I did get it on Amazon. So here it is, completely covered. There are some areas where other paint is still peeking through, but that won't matter because we're going to cover this whole thing in joint compound. So I'm going to let this dry and probably overnight just to make sure it's completely dry, and we'll get started with the joint compound. I just tested a patch on a smaller frame that I have just to get an idea for the pattern that I wanted to create and to see if the color would actually show through underneath if I used different spatulas and things like that. So I tried this one and this one, and I even took a piece of wood and dipped it in. That didn't work. I'm still letting the larger canvas dry. So I just tested the process out on the smaller canvas just to see. I started off by using some masking tape to create a faux border around the frame. But you'll see later that I did end up using the masking tape throughout the art piece because the scraping technique did not work. So this is what the border looks like after taping it up with the masking tape, and I just put it to the edge, and then this gives you a picture of what the pattern looks like. And I just did it as I went. I had no planned look for what it was going to be. I just put the tape on in a way that I knew that I would be able to find it underneath the plaster and to be able to pull it off without making a huge mess or messing the whole thing up. So as you can see, I'm doing this section by section in order to make small patterns and cover them and then uncover them as I go, because if I cover the whole canvas with the joint compound, it would be difficult for me to find where the tape starts and where it ends underneath. So I did end up doing each section by itself, and it just made it a lot easier. We would have been able to connect them or just make a larger pattern, but I kind of wanted each horizontal section to have its own pattern, so it worked out anyway. Now, if I were to do this again, I probably would draw out an actual pattern rather than just going along. It kind of threw me off when I had to switch from using something to scrape the top layer off with rather than instead of using the tape. So instead of freehanding a design, I ended up having to use the straight lines of the tape. So I kind of thought about it as I went. So this is why it's kind of looking a little haphazard. It does come out really nicely in the end, but I do wish I would have had just stopped to take some time and plan out what I wanted it to look like before I started. I'm a little impatient when it comes to DIYing. I just want to get it done, especially when I'm in the moment. By this time, it's been several weeks that has been on my mind to do. So the last thing I was going to do at this point was stop and try to figure out what I wanted to do with the tape. So the stripes ended up helping use a lot of the canvas area so that I didn't have to worry about making smaller sections. So this is just a tip if you're doing this type of thing, to just make a larger pattern if you don't want to have to worry about making smaller sections. On the next section, I decided to make little wrinkles in the tape as I put it down. I just used a finger space to add another look to the lines below. And then because the lines were a little too plain, I went ahead and used the end of a pencil to dip into the plaster and then add dots in between each line. I decided to switch over to using a small paintbrush instead of the pencil because I wanted sort of a handmade look. The circles were just a little too perfect. So I used a wide brush, smaller paintbrush, and then I went back over the circles. So this is what it looks like after I pulled the tape away from the edges. It created a faux border. I did go back in and add some black paint to the X's. So here's the final look in my bedroom. I have this Amazon light at the top that I need to rehang because it had just a sticky back and it ended up falling on the floor. But I like it because you can change the brightness and then you can also remove it and plug it up in order to recharge it. So and it comes in a 2-pack, I believe. I'll link it below. I also have these are actually rulers that I bought at Lowe's, and they're like yardsticks, and just painted it black. And I'm thinking of creating a border around the photo if I can get it back up there. Anyway, I'm thinking of creating a border around the whole picture just for another look. So that's the final look. I'm really happy with it. I like the way that it came out and matches my room pretty well. Let me know what you guys think. Leave comments below, and thank you for watching.